Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys my personal margin ratings for every single swing state in the upcoming 2024 presidential election and why these are my exact margins and basically my race ratings for every single swing state. Before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed as we are approaching 3,000 and click the bell so you don't miss out on any of my content. Also, we have memberships, so if you are interested in that, you can find a link in the description section. Now back to the topic of today's video. I'm going to be going over some of these important battleground or swing states in the 2024 election between Biden and Donald Trump. So as you can see, I personally filled out these race ratings with the margins for every single swing state, and this is how I feel if the election was held today, basically in June. I personally think Trump's going to win with 297 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 241. So Trump would ultimately flip 5 swing states that he lost 4 years ago. So let's break down these states and go through them individually. So right off the bat, I can tell you that Iowa will be safe for Donald Trump. I think he should be able to crack double digits. Now, he won the state by like 8.3% back in the 2020 election. So if he can gain a couple more points, which I think he can, he's going to win the state by a safe margin of 10%. And then as for Ohio, I think it slightly will be a little bit closer, but still Trump would likely win that state as well by 9 to 10%. And then as for Florida, Republicans have gained tremendously in terms of new registered voters. 4 years ago, Democrats actually led. Now Republicans lead in registration by nearly 900,000. That is an extreme improvement for the Republican Party. And Republicans have gained in terms of Hispanics and Cuban Americans specifically. DeSantis flipped Miami-Dade County in the 2022 midterms. So overall, the entirety of Florida has just abandoned the Democratic Party, and it's now a very comfortable red state. And then I also think Colorado is actually shifting towards the left, even though it's still pretty much a Democratic swing state. I just think Colorado is getting bluer as the year goes on. And then as for New Mexico, I still think Donald Trump is going to lose this state. It's just going to take too much for him to overcome Biden's margin. I think Biden will comfortably win that by a likely margin of somewhere in between 7 to 10%. And then I think Biden's going to win Colorado by 9 to 10 points. And then as for Texas, I have Trump winning it if the election was held today in June by roughly 7.5%. So somewhere in between 7 to 8 points. And the reason for that is I think he's going to expand his margin from his 2020 percentage in this state. It should just shift it even more to the right at the end of the day. And then as for Virginia, I do think Biden should win it by somewhere in between 5 to 6 points, so basically 5.5 on average if the election was held in June this month. And the reason for that is, keep in mind, he won the state by 10 points back in the 2020 election, which was a big improvement from Hillary Clinton's margin in this state of roughly 5 percentage points. Keep in mind that he did get endorsed by the governor here, Glenn Youngkin, who is a very popular governor. So that alone could sway the race of Virginia in favor of Donald Trump. And a new poll actually has it tied at 42 to 42% with Biden and Donald Trump. And so, honestly, it can get very close. But still, I just think Biden's going to win this state by a lean margin. As well as North Carolina, I think Donald Trump should win that state by even more than his 2020 margin, similar to his 2016 victory of 4 to 5 points, and which is exactly what the polls are showing. And regardless if Mark Robinson does or does not win on the governorship, I still expect Trump to outperform him overall. And North Carolina is getting redder, in my opinion, than a lot of people actually think. Because when every single swing state back in the 2020 election saw a major shift towards the left in favor of Biden, for example, Arizona flipped to Biden, Georgia flipped to Biden, but you know that one state that didn't was North Carolina, and it stayed red for Donald Trump. And when Georgia went to Biden by like 10,000 votes, North Carolina went to Trump by over 1%. And so that goes to show you how much more of a red state North Carolina is than what Georgia or even Arizona is, for example. I also do think Biden is going to hold on to Minnesota. I think he should win that by around 4 percentage points. I think the state's ultimately going to come down to issues like abortion. I think women could be the deciding factor. If that can drive voters to the polls, I think that can go and benefit Biden. The thing to keep in mind is that Biden does not necessarily have that BLM momentum anymore. In fact, he does not. And what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis, it really pushed those suburbs to the left. And so for that reason, because he doesn't have the momentum, I honestly think Minnesota is going to be a whole lot closer, but still, it's not going to be enough for Trump. I think Biden should win that by 4%, so basically a lean margin. For New Hampshire, I also have Biden winning that by roughly the same amount he's going to win Minnesota by, because in the last election, he won both Minnesota and New Hampshire by the same exact margin of 7 points. So those two states actually pretty much vote in the same direction. So I think both of those states would be Biden plus 4 states, New Hampshire and Minnesota. Keep in mind that New Hampshire is an anti-incumbent state, so Donald Trump is the challenger. So that can actually go in favor of Donald Trump, but just like in Minnesota, I still don't think it's going to be enough for Donald Trump to overcome the Biden votes in the state of New Hampshire. And also, considering that Biden does not have the major celebrity endorsements that he got in 2020 and this year's election cycle, a lot of those people are just not going to endorse him again, or they regret endorsing him. They stated that publicly, and some of them actually are endorsing Donald Trump. So that momentum for Biden that he got from the celebrity endorsement in 2020 is a non-factor in this election. So that's also one thing to keep in mind. And then moving on to the state of Georgia, I think this state's actually going to be one of the more easier flips for the former president, considering that the margin of error was just so small of a margin for Biden. He only won it by 0.3%. And the reason for that was because he got high turnout among African American voters. He swung the state roughly 6 points to the left, and he won Georgia for the first time for any Democrat, I believe, since Bill Clinton. So that was a major victory for him. But keep in mind that we don't have COVID in this election, and Donald Trump had to deal with a lot of outlash on COVID, BLM, celebrity endorsements for Biden, and whatnot. So all those factors that we had in 2020. Also, we had limited third-party candidates. We didn't really have any third-party candidates in the 2020 election, but we did in 2016, which is what helped Trump win some of these battleground states, specifically the Rust Belt, in which Jill Stein spoiled the race for Donald Trump from Hillary Clinton. And so with that being said, I expect Trump to actually, perform better among minority groups such as African American communities. And I don't expect Biden to nearly, get the 88% that he got among them, almost 90 points. I think he should drop as low as 80%. And if Trump is lucky enough, Biden's only get like 75% among black overall support turnout in this election. And recent polling has shown that Donald Trump is getting around in the low 20s or, high teens among African American voters. And if that's the real numbers on election day, that may seem low, but it's still actually enough for him to win this state, considering that the margin of error was just way too close for Biden. I think Trump could make some improvements in Atlanta, the metropolitan area or the suburbs here, and also in Savannah. And if he's able to flip Sumter County away from Biden, I think he's very well on track to easily win his state in 2024, as well as Washington County. I expect that to more than likely flip to Donald Trump. So it's going to be very important, and keep an eye on some of these counties. And then as you can see on the left of your screen, I have Nevada flipping to Donald Trump by a couple points, so it's going to be a lean margin. And recent polling has shown that Donald Trump is crushing Biden in this state. And he won this state by 2% back in 2020, which is actually pretty funny because he did not improve on Hillary Clinton's margin in this state, when every other swing or battleground state heavily, shifted towards the left in favor of Biden. For example, Georgia went 6 points to the left. You saw a 3-point shift to the left for Arizona for Biden. And Nevada, actually, the margin with Clinton and Biden, there was exactly no difference, zero difference between the margin in Nevada for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. So considering that he did not do better than Hillary Clinton in this state, goes to show you that it's truly a red-leaning or red trendy state. It's actually trending towards the right. And I think Trump can make gains in Washoe County or Reno. And if he's able to flip this county, particular county, I think he's on track to very well win this state. And then the only thing that's holding Trump back from actually flipping this state is basically Clark County or the Vegas area, a Democratic stronghold. And Biden won this by 9.5 points. Donald Trump doesn't necessarily have to win this particular county in order to win the state, but what he can do is make sure that Biden does not hold on to his 2020 numbers. And if the margins can narrow down in the state, doesn't mean Trump has to win it. But if they can get closer, at least, then Trump is more than likely going to flip the state in 2024. And if Trump can gain in terms of Hispanic votes, then I think he very well can win this state. Arizona, I also have Trump winning that by 2% if the election was held today. I think if he needs to do better in Maricopa County, and if he doesn't, then Biden can very well actually win the state, because Arizona is actually a left trendy state. In the future, it's going to be a very blue state. And they recently just elected their Democratic governor, Katie Hobbs, in the 2022 midterms. She ran a disastrous campaign. And the fact that she won when her campaign was absolutely trash goes to show you that the state is truly, shifting towards the left in favor of Democrats. And you have these Californians moving down to the state of Arizona. And if they bring their political views with them, the state can actually go even more bluer. And so if Trump flips Maricopa County, he automatically, wins this state, because Biden only won it by 2 points. So it's very flippable, and I think Trump can win it, considering that we have a major border crisis, record illegal immigration border crossings. If immigration is the number one priority issue to a lot of these Arizona voters, which at this point it basically is, other than the economy or inflation, which Biden's poll numbers are absolutely disaster. He's below 40% in terms of approval, currently at 38, which is one of the most disapproved of presidents of all time. Incumbently, by the way, he's an incumbent at a 38% approval rating. Like in modern U.S. history, no president is as bad as Joe Biden when it comes to the actual approval rating itself. And so I do have Trump flipping back the state of Arizona. But in 2028 or future elections, I could definitely see the state going back to the Democrats, just how it went to Biden back in 2020. Now we move on to the nitty-gritty, most importantly, the Rust Belt states that can actually decide the outcome of the 2024 election, starting off with Wisconsin, in which I think Trump is going to flip the state, and he's going to win it by a projected margin of a little bit over 1% if the election was held today or June. I think this state's ultimately going to come down to those 20,000 votes that Biden won it by. If Trump flips 20,000, obviously he's going to automatically win the election. All it takes is 20,000. I think that's very doable for the former president. If Trump can make improvements in Greene County, Biden only won it by 3 points. I think he can very well win the state. And, for example, Democratic strongholds like Milwaukee, if Biden does not hold up to his numbers in there that he got in 2020, he might lose the state. And if Trump can make gains in Portage County, Biden only won it by 2.8%, I think Trump can win this state. And if Trump is able to run up the numbers or run up the score in Republican stronghold counties in Wisconsin, for example, Green Bay, I think he can very well win this state. And then Door County, I think, is going to flip for Donald Trump. Biden only won it by 1.5%. And so I think Wisconsin's going to flip to Donald Trump by roughly 1% if the election was held today. And then as for Michigan, I've actually went back and forth in the state of Michigan. If you see my past predictions, I actually had Donald Trump winning this. And now I think Biden might narrowly pull out the victory at the end of the day, but by a very small margin, under percentage point, 0.3% to be exact. That's how dead close I think the state of Michigan can get in 2024. I think the one thing that is sabotaging Biden is the 100,000 people that voted uncommitted in the Democratic primaries, on top of Donald Trump receiving more votes than Joe Biden, and he literally is the incumbent, and Donald Trump is facing a real opponent challenger like Nikki Haley and still received more votes in Michigan than Biden did, and Biden literally was facing no primary contest. And with that being said, I think that all points to a Donald Trump victory in this state. But I think Biden can actually still win this state, considering that he got the endorsement from the governor here, Gretchen Whitmer. She's extremely popular. She had an amazing victory in the 2022 midterms. She won by 10 points, so she did crack double digits. So maybe if Biden does hold on to Michigan in 2024, I think the reason for that is probably going to be because of Gretchen Whitmer's endorsement. I think she can carry him to a victory because obviously he's going to underperform her at the end of the day. Keep in mind, Detroit's actually shifting towards the left. So this state's actually getting bluer, even though it's still actually getting redder at the same time because Biden is just so unpopular. If this was any other Democratic candidate instead of Biden, I can guarantee you Michigan would be way more bluer than where it is today because Biden is just so unpopular. And then I think if Biden does win Michigan at the end of the day, it's probably because of the woman vote and basically issues like abortion. Like I mentioned for Minnesota, if that really drives voters to the polls, which keep in mind, this is not a midterm, this is a presidential election. So people actually care about the economy, inflation, and the border crisis way more than midterm issues like, abortion. That's pretty much it. And then as for Pennsylvania, the last and final state, before we end off this video, Biden's own home state, if the election was held today, I basically currently have this a toss-up, but if I had to pick a winner, I would go Donald Trump by under percentage point. It's extremely close by 0.4%. So Trump's path to victory in this state is pretty clear. If he's able to flip Erie County, Biden only won this county by 1%, then I think he's on track to win this state. Keep in mind that Trump won Erie County in 2016, but then Biden flipped it in 2020. And in the Republican primaries, Nikki Haley actually got a lot of that vote share, so that can actually be scary for Donald Trump. And then I also think Trump can make improvements in Centre County, if that's how you pronounce it. Biden won this by nearly 5 points. So Trump can make improvements in there, and I think that can help him actually win the state. And if Biden does not hold up to his numbers that he got in some of these Democratic stronghold counties, for example, the Pittsburgh or Philadelphia suburbs, that type of area, I honestly think Donald Trump might win this state. It's going to be extremely close. And keep in mind, Biden only won Pennsylvania by 1.2% to be exact. That was his margin in 2020, which is a very close one. He won it by roughly 81,000 votes. So Trump needs to flip 81,000 votes. Can he? That's the question. We don't know yet. I think Trump can perform better in Bucks County. I think that's a very important county. I think Trump is more than likely going to flip Northampton County. It was extremely close. Biden only won it by under percentage point. So I think that's going to be a flip for the former president. So there you guys go. This is my updated 2024 presidential election prediction if the election was held today, basically in the month of June. Let me know what states you agree with or disagree with in the comment section down below. And what are your thoughts on my overall map? And what do you think about my margins? These are my margins for every single swing state. And one last final reminder before I close out this video is to subscribe as you're approaching 3,000 and click the bell so you don't miss out on any content. Also, if you are interested, we have memberships. You can find a link to that in the description section. That's pretty much it. Keep in mind, Donald Trump wins with 297 electoral votes, a little bit under 300 in my opinion, 241 for Joe Biden if the election is held today. This is my prediction. Thank you everyone for watching.